The sharp snip of scissors sliced through the hum of gate C7. A few strands of hair drifted down, catching the fluorescent light like falling embers. Gasps, then laughter. "Look at the princess thinking she can fly first class," someone jeered. A phone camera panned closer. Another voice joined in, gleeful. "This'll teach her to act entitled." Amara Johnson sat perfectly still in the boarding gate chair, her gray blazer immaculate, her expression unreadable. Her natural curls, thick, coiled, beautiful, were being cut away by an airline supervisor with trembling hands and a plastic smile. Two male employees hovered behind her, pretending this was procedure. "Company grooming standards," the supervisor announced to the crowd forming around them. Most of the bystanders didn't question it. Some filmed, some laughed. A few just watched, silent, phones raised like weapons. Amara didn't move. She simply said, in a voice so calm it chilled the room, "Continue, please." That calm unsettled them. They wanted outrage. Instead, they got composure. The scissors kept clicking. Each snip echoed off the glass walls and marble floor. A young man with a live stream camera whispered into his mic. "Y'all seeing this? Lady's getting a free haircut before first class." The view count ticked up. 500, 1,200, 2,000. Amara's silver watch caught the light as she folded her hands in her lap. Her phone buzzed again and again against her thigh, messages flashing from Sarah, Executive Control, and DOT Liaison. Unread. The woman cutting her hair chuckled nervously. "You'll thank us later. You'll look more professional." Amara's eyes met hers in the reflection of the terminal window. "Professional," she repeated softly. "That's an interesting word." The boarding announcement for Flight 447 echoed overhead. "Final call in 30 minutes. Amara's boarding pass, seat 1A, lay crumpled on the floor under a security guard's boot. The laughter swelled again. Someone shouted, "Make it shorter!" Phones kept filming. Then something changed. Amara lifted her hand and glanced at her watch as if checking the time for an appointment. She exhaled slowly, eyes steady, and said, "Are we finished?" "Almost," the supervisor said. "Just need to clean it up. Policy, you know." "Good," Amara replied, rising to her feet. Her voice carried easily across the gate. "Because I'd like to make a phone call now." The crowd assumed she was about to call a lawyer or cry to family. Instead, she pressed one number on speed dial and set her phone to speaker. "Control, this is Johnson," she said evenly. "Initiate code 7, authorization alpha." A pause, then a crisp voice on the other end. "Confirmed, Ms. Johnson, executing protocol." At first, no one reacted. Then phones began to glitch. Screens went black. Live streams froze mid-laugh. The airport PA chimed, followed by an unfamiliar message. "Attention, staff. Executive Compliance Protocol 7 activated. All gate operations suspended." The crowd's laughter faltered. Security radios crackled with static. The supervisor blinked in confusion. What's happening?" she stammered. Amara bent to pick up her ID from the floor. Its gold seal gleamed under the fluorescent lights. It read, "Amara Johnson, CEO, Johnson Aviation Solutions, Federal Aviation Consultant, Depicted of Transportation." Someone whispered, "Wait, she's the CEO?" Another stepped back, muttering, "No way." Amara met the supervisor's gaze. "You just assaulted a federal contractor on official travel," she said quietly. "And you streamed it to thousands." The woman's face was drained of color. I didn't know." "You didn't ask," Amara interrupted. That's the problem." Within minutes, suited executives hurried into the gate area, their badges flashing. Radios buzzed with words like federal jurisdiction and civil rights violation. The passengers who'd been recording now found their devices locked with a single message: evidence preservation mode, do not power off. The hum of gossip was replaced by the thud of approaching footsteps. 2 TSA agents appeared, uncertain whether to restrain anyone or salute. "Ms. Johnson," one said carefully, "the director's on the line. He's asking for instructions." "Tell him I'll brief them personally," Amara replied. She turned to the crowd still frozen around her. "Everyone here is a witness," she said, "and every second of this incident is under federal review." The live streamer lowered his phone, hands shaking. The security guard stepped back, mumbling an apology. No one laughed anymore. 15 minutes later, the airline's chief operating officer arrived, breathless, followed by a team of lawyers and compliance officers. The gate had become a silent courtroom. Hair clippings, business cards, and crushed boarding passes littered the floor. The COO extended a trembling hand. "Ms. Johnson, please, let's resolve this privately." "This was public," Amara said, her calm slicing sharper than the scissors. "It will be resolved publicly." A murmur rippled through the crowd. She lifted her phone again. "Patch and dot legal oversight." The line clicked and a new voice filled the terminal. "This is Director Martinez. We've confirmed activation of Protocol 7. Ms. Johnson, Federal Oversight Team en route. Estimated arrival 15 minutes. The COO swayed slightly. "Federal Oversight?" Amara smiled faintly. "Yes. You've been on my list for months. I just didn't expect the evidence to deliver itself so efficiently." The woman who'd wielded the scissors backed away, whispering, "I was just following company policy." Amara turned to her, eyes steady. "Then perhaps it's time your company learned what federal policy looks like." A low vibration rattled the floor as emergency shutters began descending over the boarding gates. Alarms flashed red. A computerized voice echoed, "All flights suspended pending federal investigation. Passengers remain in designated areas." Outside the glass wall, the last plane taxied to a halt. News crews were already gathering beyond security. Somewhere overhead, the airport screens flipped from departure times to a new banner. "Federal Aviation Compliance Review in progress." The supervisor covered her mouth. "Dear God, what have we done?" Amara brushed the last of her severed curls from her blazer. "You called it a joke," she said quietly. "Let's see who's laughing when this investigation lands." 10 minutes later, the first agents from the Department of Transportation arrived. Dark suits, briefcases, and an air of authority that made even the airport police step aside. They cordoned off the gate with yellow tape. One agent handed Amara a tablet. "Ms. Johnson, we're ready for your statement." Amara nodded, glancing once more at the crowd of passengers, those who had laughed, recorded, or stayed silent. "They thought they were watching humiliation," she murmured. "But they were witnessing history." The cameras from arriving journalists began flashing through the glass. Somewhere in the terminal, a reporter's voice carried, "Breaking news from O'Hare International. Federal authorities have shut down all operations following a viral incident involving an airline employee and a high-ranking aviation consultant." Amara turned back to the agents. "Begin evidence collection," she instructed. "Preserve every recording, every message, every face." The lead agent nodded. "Understood, ma'am." The supervisor who had cut Amara's hair sank to her knees, sobbing. "I swear I didn't mean harm. Please, I have children." Amara paused, looking down at her, eyes unreadable. "Then teach them what you never learned. Dignity isn't optional." She walked away as agents sealed the area behind her. Outside the terminal, black SUVs rolled onto the tarmac, marked with federal insignia. Executives huddled near the windows, pale and sweating. Phones buzzed across corporate offices nationwide as shareholders learned that Johnson Aviation Solutions, the company they had dismissed as a consultant, was now leading the federal inquiry that could end their airline's license. Amara stepped through the automatic doors into the sunlight. For the first time all day, the wind touched her bare scalp. It wasn't a shame she felt, it was clarity. Her assistant, Sarah, approached with a tablet. "Phase 2 authorization ready, ma'am? Should I proceed?" Amara looked back through the glass at the chaos inside the terminal. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Not yet," she said. "Let them sweat a little longer." Sarah hesitated. "And after that?" Amara's gaze hardened. "After that," she said, "we ground them all." The camera would pan upward, sirens wailing, aircraft frozen on the tarmac, and Amara walking toward the federal convoy. Before we jump back into this intense story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss my next upload. The air outside O'Hare shimmered with heat and tension. Inside, chaos reigned. Gate C7, once filled with laughter and arrogance, was now silent, except for the click of cameras and the low hum of federal radios. Amara Johnson, bald patches visible but chin high, stood at the center of it all. Around her, yellow tape cordoned off the gate. The same passengers who'd mocked her now whispered in disbelief. A federal agent approached, his tone respectful. "Ma'am, the Department of Transportation requests your statement. The airline executives have been detained for questioning." Amara adjusted her jacket, her composure unshaken. "Detain the employees as well," she said evenly. "They're not leaving until evidence collection is complete." The agent nodded and gestured to the officers, who moved swiftly. The woman with the scissors, Karen Mitchell, sank to her knees, weeping. "I didn't know who you were," she pleaded. "I swear I didn't know." Amara's gaze was steady. "You didn't need to know who I was," she said quietly. "You only needed to know what I was, a human being." The weight of those words lingered long after she turned away. An hour later, Amara sat inside a glass-walled conference room at the terminal's executive wing. Across from her sat the airline's CEO, Patricia Williams, pale, shaken, surrounded by lawyers and crisis managers. Patricia tried to steady her voice. "Ms. Johnson, on behalf of the company, I want to express my deepest—" Amara raised a hand. "Save it. I'm not interested in apologies. I'm interested in accountability." She placed her tablet on the table. The screen came to life, displaying surveillance footage from Gate C7, audio logs, and time-stamped social media posts. "Every second was recorded," she continued. "You didn't just violate company policy, you violated federal law." Patricia's voice cracked. What do you want?" Amara leaned forward, her tone calm but cold. "Justice," she said, "and change." Federal agents entered the room. One whispered to Amara and handed her a folder. She opened it, scanning the documents briefly before sliding them across the table. "Effective immediately," she said. "Your airline's operating license is suspended under Executive Compliance Order 47. A full federal audit begins within the hour." Patricia's face drained of color. You can't do that." Amara's eyes didn't waver. "I just did." The room fell silent. Cameras clicked as agents began securing hard drives and employee records. The same airline that had humiliated her was now being grounded, literally. Outside the conference room, reporters gathered behind security barriers. The story had already gone viral. CEO humiliated by airline staff triggers federal shutdown. Hair discrimination sparks industry-wide investigation. For the first time in years, Amara allowed herself a deep breath. But her mind wasn't on revenge, it was on reform. She turned to her assistant, Sarah. "Draft the proposal," she said. "We're going to fix this industry from the inside out." Sarah nodded. "The Johnson Protocol?" Amara smiled faintly. "No, the Dignity Act." 2 weeks later, the Senate hearing room was packed. Every major airline executive sat under oath, facing cameras and lawmakers. At the center of it all stood Amara, composed, radiant, her natural hair beginning to grow again. She adjusted the microphone and began her testimony. "What happened at Gate C7 wasn't an isolated act," she said. "It was a mirror, a reflection of how professionalism has been weaponized against identity. For years, black women have been told their natural hair is unkempt, unprofessional, or unworthy of the spaces they've earned. That ends today." The room was silent, except for the scribble of pens and the clicking of cameras. Senator Howard leaned forward. "Ms. Johnson, what do you propose?" Amara's reply was immediate. "Mandatory anti-discrimination policies across all airlines, federal oversight of grooming standards, and public accountability for every recorded violation." The crowd erupted into applause. Within days, the headlines changed again. Congress adopts Johnson Dignity Act. Hair discrimination officially recognized as civil rights violation. Months passed. Airports across the country introduced new policies inspired by her case. Training programs, equity officers, bias detection systems, all powered by Johnson Aviation Solutions. But the victory wasn't just corporate, it was human. Amara visited Chicago again to speak at an aviation academy. Young women, many of them Black, Latina, and Asian, crowded around her, their hair natural, braided, or free. One student asked softly, "Weren't you scared that day when they cut your hair?" Amara smiled. "Yes, but fear doesn't stop change, it fuels it. The difference is whether you let it silence you or sharpen you." The crowd erupted in applause, tears glistening in more than a few eyes. Back in her office one evening, Amara stood before a window overlooking the city skyline. On her desk sat the scissors used against her, now sealed in a glass case. A small plaque beneath read, "They tried to shame her. She built a law instead." Her assistant entered, holding a letter. "Ma'am, this just arrived. It's from the Department of Justice." Amara opened it and scanned the contents. A smile touched her lips. "Full authorization," she murmured. "The Dignity Act has gone international." Her assistant grinned. "Europe?" "Europe," Amara confirmed. "And South Africa's next." But as she set the letter down, her phone buzzed. The caller ID read, Federal Security Division. She hesitated before answering. "Johnson here." A serious voice replied, "Ms. Johnson, there's been a data breach. Someone accessed the federal investigation files from your case." Amara straightened. "What do you mean, accessed?" "Your protocols were duplicated. The signature matches your company's encryption." Her pulse quickened. "That's not possible. Only my internal team has clearance." The voice on the other end paused. "That's the problem, ma'am. The breach originated from inside Johnson Aviation Solutions." Amara's reflection stared back at her in the glass, calm, but with a flicker of worry in her eyes. She whispered, "Someone's using my system against me." The city lights flickered outside as thunder rumbled in the distance. She turned toward the case on her desk, toward the scissors that had started it all, and for the first time in months, she felt uneasy returning. Her assistant's voice broke the silence. "Ma'am, what's happening?" Amara took a slow breath, already thinking ahead. "If someone's corrupted my system," she said, "then we're not done yet." She reached for her phone and began dialing another number, one that hadn't been used since the day of the airport shutdown. "Activate contingency protocol," she said. "We have a new problem." The line crackled. "Confirmed. Executing Protocol 10. A storm rolled over the city as Amara turned back to the window. "They learned from my example," she murmured. "Now they'll learn from my response." Lightning flashed, her reflection merging with the storm outside. The woman who'd once been humiliated in public now faced a darker challenge, not from enemies above her, but from betrayal within. And as the rain began to fall, one thing was certain. Amara Johnson wasn't done fighting. Life lesson. True power isn't about revenge. It's about rebuilding systems so injustice can't repeat itself. But even when you stand for what's right, never stop guarding what you've built. Question for you. If you were Amara, would you seek justice quietly or fight publicly? Comment your answer below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories that turn pain into purpose.